Welcome back to part 2, EPO 501, sections 1 and 2. In this part, we're going to look at how many types of markets we're going to try to look at in the second part of the course. So let's go back to our slide shares. So what we said was how many types of markets are there? There are many types of markets. We're not going to definitely not going to look at all of them, but we're going to define the markets by the number of sellers. We said this in the part 1 of this week's video lectures. And based on that, we're going to look at the following 4 markets. Number 1 is perfect competition. Number 2 is monopolistic competition. Number 3 is oligopoly. Number 4 is monopoly. And number 5 are special matching markets. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use perfect competition as a benchmark. What do we mean by benchmark? Benchmark means this is the ideal situation that's possible. In reality, in the real world, an ideal situation is never possible. So what do? We're going to look at what the ideal situation looks like, then compare the reality, and then see how much deviation there has been from the ideal situation. And the benchmark of perfect competition is that no seller, since we've defined markets by the number of sellers, has any kind of market power whatsoever. Now, let's look at the assumptions of perfect competition. Let me just read through them. There's many buyers and many sellers. So when there are many buyers and many sellers, we have a fragmented market, totally fragmented. Sellers don't have any selling power. Buyers don't have any buying power. So ultimately what happens? No seller, since we're defining it as a set number of sellers, the market is large enough to influence market outcome. What are the market outcomes? Price and quantity. Next, we are transacting a homogeneous or identical good. What does the homogeneous or identical good mean? Homogeneous or identical in the eyes of the consumer. Same model of 2 Samsung phones or same model of 2 Apple iPhones are the same in the eyes of the consumer. Assuming that we are buying from an official dealer. Okay, so homogeneous or identical means identical in the eyes of the consumer. For example, if you're buying rice and we know that this is a certain type of rice, the 2 sellers are selling the same type of rice. To us, they're the same. Okay. Second is decisions are independent. In part 1, we defined interdependent decisions as my decision influences your decision influences my decision. So when I make a decision, I think about what response you will do. When you make a decision, you think about what response I will do. So we are having independent decision making. That means my decision doesn't influence you, so I don't have to worry about your response, and vice versa. Your decision doesn't influence me, so you don't have to worry about my response from your decision. Number 4, I think we discussed a little bit of this before, is that symmetric information. The buyer and the seller have the same set of information about the quality of the good. So if I'm buying a genuine mobile phone from the authorized dealer, whatever the features say on the outside of the box, I know these are okay as a buyer. The seller also knows what he's selling to me. So our information sets match each other. When this happens, then neither of the 2 buyers or sellers can influence the outcome. I can't be cheated as a buyer. The seller also can't cheat me. Easy entrance and exit means that the sunk cost decisions of entering the market is very low. Anybody can enter at any moment. So when entrance is easy, anybody can decide to leave at any moment. Okay, so the entrance fixed cost decisions of entering the market is low. Therefore, the fixed cost decisions of leaving the market is also low, or sunk costs, as we will later synonymize. Now, what is the implication of perfect competition? For which reason we use it as a benchmark? Price, the unit, that means at which each unit will be sold, is determined by market forces. It is not determined by one or a group of firms. Why not? The market is extremely fragmented. There are so many buyers, and they are so fragmented that no single buyer or a group of buyers within the relevant market can influence the price at which each unit will be sold. The same argument is the second variable that we've used is quantity. If the total quantity increases that is available on the market, price will tend to fall. If the total quantity decreases that is available on the market, price will tend to rise. Since the market is highly fragmented, no single seller or a group of sellers can determine how much bananas will be sold in Dhaka city today, how many eggs will be sold in Dhaka city today. So market forces determine price at which each unit will be sold. Market forces also determine the total amount available in the market at a particular point of time. So equilibrium will be determined by summation of all the supplies. Equilibrium will be determined by summation of all the demands, i.e. market forces. Now, one implication of these two, number 1 and 2, is something that most textbooks don't focus on, and that is perfectly competitive markets are actually commodity markets. Although Samsung and Apple may be big monopolists, okay, big market, but they have a lot of market power. But when I'm buying them, okay, I can buy from anywhere. And the particular Samsung phone or the particular iPhone is a standardized commodity. It doesn't matter whether I'm buying from seller A or seller B. So ultimately it becomes a standardized product, and a standardized product means it becomes a commodity market product. Now, all other markets that we will look at will be deviations from one or more assumptions of perfect competition. And the markets that we will be looking at are, let me get back to the previous one, is monopolistic competition. We'll look at what are the features of it. Oligopoly, we'll look at what are the features of it. And we'll look at monopoly. And some special matching markets where price won't work, where quantity will also not work. Okay, so after the midterm, we start monopolistic competition and monopoly and markets of where assumptions of perfect competition may fail. So in part 2 of today's video lectures, we discussed basically what perfect competition is and what it implies. Why is it a benchmark? Once we understand perfect competition extremely well, we can understand deviations from it. Like the analogy that we've been using from the beginning of the course, 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit as the benchmark temperature of a human being. If we take the temperature of everybody in the class right now, nobody's temperature is going to be 98.4. But if there's too much deviation, plus or minus, we get worried and we definitely go to the doctor. Okay, so this brings us to the end of part 2 of today's video lectures. In part 3, we'll look at the preview, or we'll actually review some topics of that may turn up in the midterm. Thank you very much. Bye.